handle two values. So one is true and false. Another important point is JavaScript Boolean type. JavaScript Boolean can handle numeric values. Numeric values where 1 is equal to true and 0 is equal to false. So you can use 0 and 1 for true and false, but not recommended. It will work, but not recommended. Why? Because again, you will have problem with numbers, but they will support 0, 1. Many times when you have to work with true and false, we use this 0, 1 representation also. For example, see here. Suppose I am defining here stock. So where stock is equal to true. Stock is equal to true. That is a Boolean. And here what we are doing, simple, we are going to compare. If stock is equal to 1, then we will put document.write available. Otherwise, I will say document.write out of stock. Actually, it is true, but you are using 1 for comparison. So it will work fine, no problem. It will work fine. Because in JavaScript, 1 represents true. And if I say false, stock is equal to false, then it will be out of stock. It is working fine, but not recommended. Always use Boolean decisions only. That means always use true or false. But you can use 0, 1, but recommended to use true or false. So this also works. I give here like this, it works. This is an example. It will work. So, but always recommended to use Boolean, true or false as keywords for constructing Boolean expression. So technically that means, so here I write if stock is equal to 1, this is not good. Okay. So if stock is equal to true, this is good. I told you good and bad coding. That is good, right? It works, 1 also works, but we should not recommend this. So generally Booleans are used in decision making. This is where sometimes people fail in answering some questions, like in any interview, if they given true plus true is equal to how much? It is 2. Not true or false. That is where people fail, right? Generally people think that these are very simple, addition, subtractions, I am learning from school days. But you will fail in certain conditions because you don't know the consequences. You have to know that clearly, right? So many times people think that this, what will happen, true plus true will be some Boolean. No, it's not Boolean, it is a number. So why? Because Boolean true is 1 and this true also 1. It will treat as 1 plus 1. Then it will be true. For example, see here, I said document.write. So true plus true. I am printing true plus true. Then it will return as 2. It uses Boolean. Later in operators, we will understand various conditions while working with operators. Initially, this is 1. How to handle the Booleans. Let's see one simple example actually. means where can we implement this. One simple option we will see. For example, let's design a page. Here I am adding some conditions. For example, here I said boolean. So usually here the controls you already learned. So what are the form elements? Form elements. What are the form elements? So that what are the form elements that use boolean state? Form element attributes. What are the form element attributes that use boolean state? Tell me. You learned form elements and some attributes of form elements. Tell me the attributes which use boolean. Boolean attributes that use boolean, different elements. For example, we learned radius and checkbox. What is the attribute? Checked. Checked is what type? Boolean. What else? Any another property you learned boolean? Checked is attribute. Any another attribute? Read only. That is also boolean. Disabled. That is also boolean. Boolean. These are all boolean. You learned about selected for option. That is also boolean. These all will take true or false. These all will take true or false. That means they use true or false. Form elements. These are all form elements. We are looking at form elements. Confirm also used boolean, but that is not form element. So we are discussing form elements. Form element, we have checked, we have read only, we have disabled, we have selected. If we want to control them dynamically, then we need a boolean. For example, let's see one simple option how we can manage them boolean. Simple. Suppose I will put here a option like here div. I will use some link relation style sheet href node modules bootstrap css bootstrap.css. Okay, now here we are defining the divs. Div is nothing but simply here we define class as form switch and input type is equal to checkbox, class as form check input. So and we will put some span label, and this label will have like label, or we'll put a span. We will change dynamically. We'll put a span here. I will put the id as check text, lbl checkbox. Okay, that is the option. And here I defined as some available. Okay, that is lbl checkbox available. This is, I will put a heading something like stock. Okay, right. Now actually this is the option we have configured, stock. So class container fluid. Okay, now what should happen when I change this? This word should change, available out of stock. That means we need to change this word based on whether it is checked or not. We have to verify whether checked or not. That means we need a boolean now. We need a boolean for that. So what we do here, see, by default, so we will write for this. By default, we will write here available means the checkbox will have which property checked. So by default, it is checked. When I turn off, it should say out of stock, right? So we have to write an event that is on change. On change indicates when you are changing the text. We are changing the checked. On change, so we will say uh, change message. Okay. Change, suppose label. Okay. This change label should fire up. We will write a script. In the script, we have a function. We have change label. What change label have to do? So we have to verify this. Change label is nothing but simple. Change label have to change this label. LBL checkbox. So we need two things. First, we need to access this checkbox. How to access the checkbox? Checkbox needs an ID. ID as some OPT stock. Okay. So we will access OPT stock. Document get element by ID. This is OPT stock. This is checkbox. And we will access LBL checkbox. Document dot get element by ID. LBL checkbox. This is accessing that label, that span. Now here we are defining simple condition. If OPT stock, that means checkbox dot checked is equal to true. That is a boolean. If it is equal to true, then what should happen? If it is equal to true, then LBL checkbox dot inner HTML, it should say available. Otherwise, else LBL checkbox dot inner HTML, it should say out of stock. That is the label we are configuring. Here we are using a boolean to verify. Now you see here, I will remove this. It is out of stock. And I select here, it is available. That means we are directly changing the label and we are displaying different values. This is checked property. We are controlling the checked property by using boolean. That is one option. For example, another, suppose you see some option like here. Suppose we created a data list. I will say heading. I will say payment details. And here I am giving a data list with the data term. Here I entered some mobile. So some say card. Okay. Card number. Okay. And here we defined input type is equal to text. So ID is equal to txt card. Okay. Now below here, what I want is simple. Here we have the card number, and below I am giving CVV, and input type is equal to text. Input type is equal to text. ID is equal to txt CVV. And what I want here is this CVV size is 4. I don't want this CVV to work until or unless they entered card number correct. Right? We don't want it to work. Suppose we have a button. That means below that we have a button, and button is pay. ID as BTN pay. I don't want this button also to work. That means I will just give class BTN and BTN primary. I don't want that button to work until CVV is correct. So that means We can verify both at a time or one after another, depends. By default, these two should not work. Then what we can do is we can directly put disabled. We can directly put disabled. That means these two are disabled. They are not working now. That means I cannot use CVV and pay. And if card number is correctly entered, then only CVV should work. Then here, while entering the card number on key up, verify card. That means for every character, it should verify. I already told you, if you want to verify after complete number entered, then use blur or other events. Here we want to verify for every character. So what we will do here is if so function, what is it? Verify card. Here we have to verify the card number, where card is equal to document get element by id txt card dot value, whatever they entered in the card number. And here we will say if card, our condition may be anything. Suppose if card is equal to 4445556667890, something like this. If it is the card number is this, then enable CVV. That means document dot get element by id txt CVV have a property called disabled. This property should be set to false, because by default it is true now. Because when I use disabled, automatically disable is true. So because you written here disabled, by default disable uses true. That means currently it is in which state? Disabled state. We have to remove the disabled state. Then we have to use boolean. Right? The same thing I have to do for this for verify CVV. Verify CVV, and we will access txt CVV. And here we will use the variable as CVV. And if CVV is matching with, suppose, some 4321, then the button, so this is btn pay disabled is false. If CVV is entered correctly, then it will be doing it. And this should fire up when they are typing CVV. That means here we have to write same. What is it? On key up. So that is verify CVV. That is the method to fire up. Now you can see here we are controlling checked. We are controlling disabled. So we are choosing that. Now I entered here card number. So card number here I am defining some 44455666780. Now CVV will work. Pay button is not working. So I entered 4321. Now it is working. So we have to write alternate conditions that you will see later. Here our point is to understand how to control Boolean properties. How do we pass true? How do we pass false? Here one more option is, many times in requirements they ask that after I finished this card number, that means after I finished this card number 90, then automatically cursor should go to CVV. But cursor is still in the card number. Automatically it should go to CVV. Actually, for that, what you can do is we can use the method here. CVV disabled is false. Then document dot get element by id txt CVV, because I am not using any variable, I have to write 2 times. Otherwise you put a variable, you can access easily. Dot focus, you have to use focus. That means the cursor will go focus into that. Autofocus is there now. Autofocus is an attribute and its property name is focus, right? Its property name is focus. So what you have to do, set focus. You see now I am entering here. So we have defined, so 4445567 sorry 7890, automatically cursor will go there. Once you finish, it will go there. So 4321, so we can take cursor to pay also. Same focus we have to set for button. So that is very common requirement how we can manage, right? These are, we can put read only or we can put disabled. We know all the meaning. Disabled means it will not allow to submit the value. Read only means it will allow to submit the value but will not allow to change. That we can put read only true false, we can put disabled true false, right? Yeah, this is a example for that. You can try this for selected. Generally selected is used for, it is for which element we use this selected. Selected is used for option in drop down. Selected is used for option. If you remembered, option contains selected. That means by default that city will be selected or that value will be selected. That means if you want any one option to be selected, then you have to define. Later we can use this selected also in example. This also requires which property? Boolean. All these are Boolean types. So how do we control the Boolean types? By passing Boolean value. For example, suppose here what I am doing is disabled is equal to false. I am sending 0. So disabled is false. I am sending 0. That means I am sending the value 0. 0 here. Then see here, I am entering the card number 455666780. It is working fine. But it is not good, as I already told you. Why? Because Booleans can work with 0 and 1. 1 is true, 0 is false. But later, if you have to do some manipulations with the numbers, then problems will come. That is the reason always don't use numbers for Boolean. Always use the Boolean keywords, either true or false. That's how we need to manage. This is another example I already given here. This is Boolean types. How do we handle the Boolean types? This is just introduction to data types. So this all knowledge we are going to use in building good examples in later stage. So we have a number type, we have a string type, we have a Boolean type. Next important, we have an undefined type. Undefined type is nothing but, undefined is a type. So it is a type of JavaScript, that which specifies that value is not defined. Value is not defined into any given reference. Value is not defined into any given reference. That means some variable is there, but it is not having any value. Now, very important, undefined is the type configured at compile time. Undefined is the type, so is the type configured at compile time. At compile time, if there is no value supplied, then automatically compiler will not show any error. Compiler will simply put undefined. That means actually, suppose we have let's add a file here, undefined. Yeah. So here at compile time, that means when you are compiling, suppose var price, and I am not mentioning price, right? Price is equal to whatever the value of price. There is no value in price, then it is not a problem. By default, what JavaScript compiler will do is it will put undefined into it. Undefined is a type which mentions that there is no value defined. What is advantage is we can verify whether value mentioned or not by using the keyword if price is equal to undefined. If price is equal to undefined, then document dot write, we will say price not defined. So price not defined. This is so here undefined. Actually, price not defined. So with value, not defined with value. Price not defined with value. Why? Because I will tell you here one another point. In interviews, they ask question like, what is difference between undefined and not defined? Are both same? Both are not same. Undefined is different, not defined is different. What is difference? Undefined, not defined difference. Undefined is actually, point is, undefined is to verify the value, and not defined is to verify the reference, is to verify the reference. So that means, for example, I will show you that what is meant by that. Suppose here I will simply write price required. I will just put a message, price required. Else means if it is there, then print the price. That means now when I run this, it will simply say that price required. So that means price required means no value defined in price. So no value is defined in price. If you define some value, into it, then automatically it will print that value. If value is not there, then it will say required. Now, if I remove this price reference, now what? Now it will return not defined. Price not defined. Price dot not defined means the reference you are trying to use is not there. If reference is there but value is not there, then it means undefined. Reference at all not there, then it is undefined. Sorry, what is it? Not defined. So you see now here. So I will go to inspect. In the inspect, you can see in the console, you will find that price not defined. What is meant by price undefined? Price not defined. Price undefined means there is a variable for price, but value is not there. Price not defined means there is no variable for price. That means there is no reference for price so that I can store price. So what is difference between undefined? It is to verify the value. What is not defined? It is to verify the reference, right? That is important. And you can verify by using this simple keyword undefined, right? So where, so price, and we can configure like this. This is one example. Now, this is at what time? This is at compile time. Compile time. Sometimes we expect value at runtime, not at compile time. Compile time, we are not expecting value. At runtime, we are expecting value. That means it may be from a text box or it may be from a prompt. Already I showed you that if value is not provided at runtime, you have seen in prompt what it returns. If value is not supplied at compile time, it will store undefined. If value is not supplied at runtime, then it returns null type. It returns null type. That means now the question here is, what is difference between, already I told you in prompt. Already we discussed this in prompt. When using prompt, prompt will return null. When it will return null, when you cancel. That means value is not supplied at the time of compiling, then it is undefined. At the time of running the application, compiling finish, we are expecting a value dynamically. That means what is null type? Null is the type defined for any reference that is expecting value during runtime. Value during runtime. That means if value is not supplied into a reference during runtime, then it returns null. Then it returns null. That is the point about null. That means now you see here, already we done that example. Huh? Suppose I am expecting this price from prompt. Understood? From prompt, I will say enter price. Right now, what happens? We are expecting the price and I am canceling. I am not supplying. Then it says price required, no value. But actually, this is verifying what? Undefined. But actually, what it should verify, because one more condition is there, they can supply value also. No? They can supply value. So at the runtime, you have to use which keyword? Null. At runtime, we have to use null. If price is equal to null, then this will happen. There is another condition. If you remembered, we can use else if. Another condition, if price is equal to empty. I already told you, no? Empty means they clicked OK without entering value. In that case, document.write. So we say, so price required. Here we have to say price required. Here what we should say? We should say that you cancelled. Understood? Because null will be returned as a type if you cancel. If you submit empty without any value inside it, then it will be this. It will be empty. So that means here we use cancel, then say you cancel. Because it returns null. You are not supplying a value. If you supply a value into it, you click OK without value, then it is an empty string. It will say price required. Price is required. And if you entered some value into it, then it will return that value. This already I give an example. When we discussed about prompt, I told you. So, so what is difference between null and undefined? What is difference between null and undefined? Null is supplied when there is no value, when there is no value during runtime. If there is no value at compile time, it will be undefined. What is meant by not defined? Not defined means there is no reference. There is no reference, right? These are all important about the null types. So these are all under the category of primitive types. These are all the primitive types. What is the summary? The primitive types are what types? These are immutable types, right? All are immutable types. We have a number, we have a string, we have a boolean, we have null, and we have undefined. These are all under primitive types. Next, important in JavaScript, we have non-primitive types. Non-primitive types. Actually, what are non-primitive types and how they work? First, important, you should know that. So non-primitive types, so they are mutable. Mutable means you can change the structure. You can change the structure according to situation, according to state and situation. You can change the structure according to state and situation. That means they are mutable. You can change the structure according to the state and situation. That means no fixed range for value. That means value range varies according to memory available. And very important, they are stored in heap memory. Heap memory means usually no order of accessing and storing. There is no order of accessing and storing. That is called heap. Primitive types are in stacked memory. Stacked memory means last in, first out. The last value goes in, that is the first value that comes out. But this is different. You can store value at any location. We can access from any location. There is no order for that. So their structure is not standard. They can change the structure according to situation. That is the reason we call them as mutable. And JavaScript non-primitive types. JavaScript non-primitive types are, we have non-primitive types. Number one is array. Another one, we have an object, and we have a map. These three are non-primitive types. We have array, we have an object, and we have a map. So technically, these are the non-primitive types of JavaScript. Now, what are these types? How they work? Let's see one simple point. So what is array type? That first we will see about array types in the non-primitive types. Actually, if anyone asks what is the purpose of array in computer programming, what is the purpose of array? So generally, if you have learnt about arrays in other technologies, C++, Java, .NET, and all these, you will have a definition called similar type of values. But that is wrong. So then why they teach you like that? Because I will tell you clear here, detailedly. Actually, What is purpose of array? If anybody asked why I should use array, why I should use array, what is the purpose of array? What arrays can do to your application, right? The correct point about array is actually arrays are used in programming, in computer programming to reduce overhead and complexity. This is the purpose of array. Arrays are used for reducing overhead and complexity. That is the main reason actually. And generally array can store any type of value. But your Java, your .NET, your C++ teaches that it is same type of values. I will show you why they teach like that, right? Why you have that point. Actually, first we will discuss the first point. Generally, if anybody asks what is purpose of array, don't say similar type values. That is not purpose of array, that is the nature of array. The nature of array is it is storing similar type values in your technology, right? That is the nature of array. That is not purpose. Then what is the purpose? The purpose of array to reduce overhead. Actually, what is overhead? I will tell you. See, generally, why these arrays started in computer programming, right? See, earlier, in the early days of electronic device, I hope you people also know that earlier in computer devices, data is stored. In computer devices, data is stored in a magnetic tape. So data is stored in magnetic tapes. Earlier in computer electronic devices, data is stored in magnet tapes. You have tape recorder, VCRs, even computers also. So we don't have floppy CDs, hard disks, magnet tapes only. Even computer also magnet tape. So if we are using magnet tape, no problem. Why? Because in this magnet tape, data is stored in an order like this. Data is stored in this way. And usually if you have seen tape recorders, if you have seen VCR, tape recorder, VCRs, if you have seen, actually they will have a head, read-write head. This head will be at one place and this tape will be rotating from left to right. That is the reason if I have to listen to my previous song, again rewind and listen. Because tape ends after it reaches one point. Again you have to rewind and rotate and listen. I hope if you have experience, you know it. Walkmans and all earlier, there is an option rewind and forward. You cannot listen to any song directly. Earlier, we don't have a chance. If I want to listen the fourth song, I have to forward up to fourth. There is no chance that I can directly listen the fourth song. Right? That is because it is sequentially accessed. Sequentially stored and sequentially accessed. So no problem. Problem started when we started using disk. So CDs, hard disks, when we started using floppy disk, compact disk, hard disk, then problem started. Why problem started? Because actually in a disk, whether it is a floppy or CD or hard disk, data is actually stored in tracks and sectors. Inside this data is stored in tracks and sectors like this. It will have tracks and sectors. I hope many people know this. Data is stored inside the tracks and sectors like this. They will have tracks and sectors. But what people don't know is in this how data is stored. You know that data is stored in tracks and sectors, but you don't know how data is stored in tracks and sectors. Actually, data is stored in this way: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, like this. That means data is stored in this direction. Understood? I will show you, because you have never seen inside a CD drive how CD works. You may be thinking that CD rotates round and data is stored round. No, CD rotates round, floppy rotates round, hard disk rotates round, but data is not round. Data is not in round. So it is stored in this way. I will show you. For example, let's see, suppose, so desktop files, I'll say. Suppose we have, yeah, I'll take one example. Yeah. Suppose I have hard disk drive. This is hard disk. So there is an hard disk. Yeah, this is hard disk picture. This is hard disk internal part. This is hard disk internal, inside hard disk. And inside hard disk, you can see here, this is the spindle. The round spindle is there, right? So that is the spindle. That is the spindle. So that means this is the round spindle here. Now disk that is going to rotate the disk round. But you see, this is read write head. That is read write arm. And it is fixed here. Then you can observe that it will move like this, like a viper. Your disk will be rotating round. It will be moving left and right. That means how data is stored: 1, 2, 3, 4. Am I right? Disk will rotate again. It will be 5, 6, 7, like this. That means in this way data will be stored. It is not spiral. If it is spiral, it is like gramophone. You know gramophone? You see, gramophone records have a pin. They will move and stop at the beginning. Again, you have to lift the arm and put it back. But here, the arm you can't lift. It is fixed. It will just move like a viper inside. Even CD also. CD rotates round. There will be a laser light inside. You can see that laser light moves left, front and back. CD, floppies, hard disk work in this way. Now, what is problem in this? The problem is very simple actually. So what happens here is, what happens in this is, problem is nothing but in this kind of concept. Suppose what happened, this place is left empty. This place is left empty because you have a read write arm. This arm is moving like this. And that is left empty. Here it goes 1, here it goes, yeah, 1 and 2. After that it will stop. And because already, suppose it will come here, it will not continue because already data is there. It will go to the next location. In the next location, suppose here some data is already there. It will write up to here. Then it will go to next. That means this place is always empty. That means you have place, but you cannot use. This is called overhead. So overhead means you have memory, but you cannot utilize. This is overhead. This kind of overhead is very common. Now, to handle this issue, few years back, before Windows 7 came, we have Windows XP. Till that XP, every few days, we have to do a work on operating system called disk defragmentation. There is an option. Even today, you will have this disk defragmentation. What is this disk defragmentation? Disk defragmentation is nothing but it will move all used sectors one side, unused sectors another side, so that space will adjust again, so that you can utilize the unused space. And currently in the modern versions, it is done internally automatically every few days. Every few days internally it is doing, so you don't know about this. Earlier when we started using Windows, in the beginning of Windows, every few days we have to run this, because memory gets full immediately, even we don't utilize it completely. We have to run this regularly, disk defragmentation, because it will move unused and used one side. So to overcome this problem with disks, in computer programming, they introduced a concept called array. What array can do? Array can reduce overhead by storing values in sequential order. Arrays can reduce overhead in sequential order by storing value in sequential order. That is the purpose. Array can reduce overhead because it allows to store values in an order. If these values are stored in an order, there is no overhead. So to reduce overhead, so we invented the concept of arrays. Arrays were not there in the beginning days of computers programming, because we don't need at all. Arrays were introduced when disks started to overcome this issue. And array can reduce complexity by storing many values under one name. You can store many values under one name by using array. Array can, but main purpose is array reduce overhead. Array can reduce overhead and complexity. Another point, array can store various types of values. Array can store various types of values. Array size can change dynamically. But when you learn some technologies like Java, .NET, C++, there they will tell you that array size cannot be changed dynamically. They will tell you that array is similar type of values. But you see here the point here is, here I am using some values. This is number, this is string, and this is boolean. These are different types of values. I am printing those values. That is an array actually. I am printing that array and you can see it is working. So if anybody says array is similar type of value, then I have proved them wrong. Right? We proved them wrong that array is not similar type of values. Then why Java, .NET and C++ people tell this? That is nothing but that is the problem in their technology. That means Java, .NET, C++ technologies have a problem in allocating different types of memory in a sequential order. That problem they are telling you as a definition. Right? You should never say that arrays are similar type, because that is only for your Java. That is only for your .NET or C++, not for every computer programming in world. That means because of some drawbacks in your technology, your technology have restricted array for similar type of values. Understood? Because your technology cannot handle different types of values in a sequential order. That is the reason they restricted for similar. That is the problem of your technology. You are telling us definition. Then better always say in my Java array is similar type. In my .NET array is similar type, but don't say array is similar type, because in other technologies it can different type. That means the purpose of array is not to store similar type values. The purpose of array is to reduce overhead. Array size can be changed dynamically. For example, see, these values I given a new array. I will later tell you how to declare and all. Its size is some 2. Array size is 2. Array size is set to 2. Now I am storing values of 0 is equal to 10. Values of 1 is equal to true. Values of 2 is equal to A. So values of 3 is equal to some John, like this. I am defining some values of 4 is equal to some 20, like this. Now, if any other technology people will see this, they will say it is error, because their technology will not allow to change the size of array dynamically. But here it is okay, it works fine. That means I mentioned the size as 2, but later I can change, I can add many. So all your definitions that you learned about array is related to your technology. Don't impose this universally. Right? That means universally array purpose is very different. So your technology have problem. So that is the reason your technology uses array in that way. Right? Arrays can store different types of values. Arrays can store, array size can change dynamically. Other technologies have problem in this. That is the reason they restrict it. That means other technologies are restricting array to same type, but it is not the nature of array. Array can handle different types. Then why it is called array? Why it is called array? What is the meaning of that word array? Why it is called array? Actually, it is a general concept. Suppose I will tell you a simple thing. Suppose you have you went to some bank counter is there. In a bank counter, so at the bank counter you are standing in a sequential order. Now what happens is, how this counter people will call the members? They will use a mechanism called first in, first out. That means the first person comes in, he will the first person to call. That means this is called as a queue. That means they say that stand in a queue. What is the nature of queue? Queue nature is we will access the first person who came first. First person came first, second person second, third person third. This is a nature. This is called first in, first out. For example, you went to some interview. You went to some interview. At an office, you went to some interview. And so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, several people are there. So the first means people came and all are sitting in a line. All are sequentially sitting in a line. But first person interview is 8:30 a.m. time. Second person interview is suppose 8 a.m. Third person is some 6 a.m. So this is 6 a.m. And another person is like 9 a.m. 9 a.m. That means you are sitting in order. You are maintaining a queue. But you will not be accessed in the same order. You will be accessed how? So the first person, who is the first person to attend interview? The 3. You may be in queue. You may be in queue, but you are accessed randomly. Not randomly actually. It is depending on requirement. That means now this person will go first. Even he comes last, he will go first. Why? Because his interview time is that. That means the first person, who will be the first person? So the person who is scheduled with this. Now, what is this? What is this order called? Here also sequence. There also sequence. This is called array. Understood? In both situations, sequence is there. But one is queue, another one is array. What is queue sequence? Queue means first person will be called first. But array is, they will be in sequence, but not accessed in sequence. Understood? They will be in sequence, but not accessed in sequence. We can access in random. That means they may stand in a sequence, but that is what we say. Array can store values in a sequential order. Am I right? Array can reduce overhead by storing values in sequential order. But very important is you can access the values in any order. Storing is sequential. Accessing can be in any order. You can access first, you can access last, you can access the middle, anything you can access. So what is the meaning of array? Array is a sequence which allows random access. Understood? Array is a sequence which allows random access. That means, actually you might not heard, but many times in different situations, it's an English word, general English word. They say that form an array. Then what is meaning of form an array? Means stand in a sequential order. But they said that form an array means stand in a sequential order, but I understood that I will not be called first even I stand at first. Right? Even I stand at first, I will not be called first. Why? Because they said array. Array means they can call anybody from any place. Right? That means form a queue, then sequence. Form a array, that is also sequence. Form a stack, that is also sequence. But stack work with a sequence, how? Last in, first out. Queue work with a sequence, first in, first out. Array work with a sequence, any location. Any from random location we can access. That is the concept of array. Right? So now how to, in JavaScript, these all are valid for array. That means in JavaScript, array can store different types of values. In JavaScript, array size can be changed dynamically. So that means, that is the reason in other technologies they have problem with array. That is the reason in other technologies they introduced a concept called collections. Java, .NET, all these people have a concept called collections because array have problem. But JavaScript don't need any collection because array can handle everything. Array can handle in sequential order, it can handle in random order. Right? Other technologies have problem in array. That is the reason they use a new concept called collection. But that collection allows queue, stack like mechanism, but in JavaScript you don't need. JavaScript doesn't need any collection because array can behave as everyone. You can also restrict array for same type values. We can put such validations. That means array can handle everything. So how to declare, how to work with array, we will see now practical. That we'll see tomorrow. Right? In tomorrow's session, it's very important because all our major work in UI data presentation will be with arrays on. So this is the major part in complete web development. Array handling, presenting arrays, accessing and working with arrays. That we'll see in next session. Tomorrow we'll do. Okay. Right.